Okay, so it is time for our health segment, and proudly, of course, brought to you by Lipton Tea, inspiration flowing from nature. And you just saw that little clip there about brain scans. So to help Nana and I, just get a bit more information about why somebody would need a brain scan and what exactly a brain scan is, we have with us Dr. Sami Ohene from the Medical School, University of Ghana. Good morning.
Thank you.
So I was just looking at that.
Happy New Year.
Oh, Happy New Year. Yes, well, I was just looking at that clip and saw the little tumor. That looks really interesting. But first and foremost, just to break it down for us, what exactly is a brain scan?
Okay, I think in simple language, a brain scan is an image that is produced typically by an instrument called a scanner, which enables you to see what is going on in the brain. It may be a structural one or a functional one. If it's structural, what it means is that it shows you the anatomy, what it looks like physically. Functional means it's able to do beyond just showing you what the brain looks like, but how the brain is functioning. For example, we know that when you think about a mathematical problem, there are certain parts of your brain which you use. If you are happy, there are certain parts of your brain you use. Your memory depends on certain parts of the brain. Definitely, within the hospitals, they try that if you desperately need it, they'll find a way around it, but it's expensive. Some people also want it because they just want to be sure. It's not strictly important that they have it.
Yeah, well, I was going to come to that.
Yeah, sometimes you have a persistent headache and you think, let me just, ideally, in an ideal world, yes, it's good because no news is good news in this case. But it costs a lot of money. So if you're ready to pay for it, you can have the scan done, since it's quite safe. But talking about pressure, an MRI machine, for example, ideally is kept on 24/7 because it uses continuous run of electricity to generate electromagnetic waves that are utilized. So it means you can do endlessly, so long as you can, the technicians are there and they can go ahead and interpret it. So it's there. Now Kolebu has two, I think really more than our needs.
Wow. Yeah. That's a piece of good news.
We've upgraded.
Well, yes, but it means that if you're in Teshima and you need one, you have to travel this way.
Travel down. Okay, what's the difference between an MRI and a CT? Because those are the two names I tend to hear.
Yes. CT scan means computerized tomography. In neuroimaging. You can use CT for other parts of the body or MRI for that matter. But talking about the brain, you are taking thin slices, just a few millimeters, and you take many images from
of the brain
to back. That way you're able to catch very small lesions because of any problem. It may be a blood clot, it may be so it's like, because if you took just a simple x-ray, there are very few things that you can pick up. It's only huge things, but a CT enables you to do much more. An MRI enables you to do even more because
is it more advanced?
Yes, let's look at it that way. The technology is also a little different. But, for example, in the brain, you can differentiate between the gray matter and the white matter using an MRI. So that even at the level of, should I say, small cells, tissues, little parts of the brain, you can tell if there's a problem using an MRI.
Okay. All right, then. Well, we're just going to remind people that we're going to be taking calls very soon. So if you want to know any more about brain scanning, when or if you need it, we have the wonderful Dr. Ohene here who's going to help us to understand a little bit more.
I must say that there are other forms of scanning which we haven't talked about, which are not, but they're available in some places. Like the PET scan means positron emission tomography. Yes, there's also single photon emission computerized tomography. There is brain electrical activity mapping.
Are they as advanced as the MRI?
Perhaps more. And in MRI also there's functional MRI. What we talked about is really structural, which just tells you. Functional, for example, as you are talking to me now, we could put your head in the machine whilst you are doing this, or ask you to think about your most pleasurable experience. And we can tell which part of your brain is being used.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So that we also can predict that if there's an injury to that part of the brain, you may be unable to, feel as happy as, you feel. So it's also used for research purposes. Or if your memory is playing tricks with you, we might be able to determine exactly which side of your brain. And if it's something that lends itself to treatment.
So, Dr. Henning, if I realize that I keep forgetting more often than I used to, do I need to go to Kolebu or any other hospital to get my brain checked?
Okay, first of all, we need to confirm that indeed you are forgetting. Sometimes all that happens is that your concentration is not very good, and therefore you don't register the information. If the information is not there, you can't recall it.
Okay.
So we can do tests for memory without even going to do a scan first. But having done that, if we establish that indeed you have memory problems, one of the options open to us is to do a scan to see whether indeed there is some disability or some problem.
We'll continue in a tad. Let's talk to Amos. He's on the line. He's got a question for Dr. Hene. Thanks for calling, Amos. Your question, please. Good morning, Amos.
Good morning, madam. How are you?
Good. Your question.
Morning. How are you?
Good. Your question, please.
Okay, thank you very much. You can inject some dye into the brain when you are doing the scan.
I beg your pardon?
I hear him saying you inject some dye into the brain when you are doing the scan.
No.
May I know whether the dye will not have any consequence on the brain later?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
think
the dye does not go directly into the brain. We inject it into a vein, into a blood vessel. Because blood flows all around, this dye is special, so it targets tissues in the brain. So it will flow, and in a few seconds it's in the brain. So that when you take the pictures, you will be able to determine, the different areas of the brain.
He's probably alarmed by the mere mention of dye. So maybe you should explain to him.
Okay. No, it's not hair dye at all. No, I'm sorry. It's, should I say, some medication. It's safe. I mean, they wouldn't use it if it wasn't safe. Yes, it's some medication which you inject into the vein and which enables you to be able to take a picture which differentiates one thing from the other.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. We have Nasiru from TEM on the line. Good morning. Nasiru, what's your question for the doctor, please?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Please go ahead.
Yeah, please, I want to ask the doctor, I have a question. Know the set of the volume. I want to ask a question for concern about my doctor. Hello?
Yes, go ahead. We're listening.
My problem is that I have a 21 years girl, and she's having a problem with her the memory is very low, and I want to know the cause of that. She was attending school, she's at class 6 to class 6, and then because of the low memory, she has to stop going to the school. We've tried always to see the problem, but we could not understand. So I just want to ask the doctor if there's any help.
He said she's 21. Is that what he said?
That's what I heard.
Okay.
She's 21 and has had to drop out of school. Well, when he says that because of low memory, sometimes what people mean is that the person is not doing well in school.
Exactly.
And they assume that that's because they cannot retain information. Sometimes the problem is beyond just memory. Sometimes it's a general problem of, should I say, for want of a better word, intelligence level. Because you may be born with a brain that is not as capable as, other people. And therefore, learning information, learning things, going to school and things like that may be difficult for you. Some of these people are good at vocations and things, so that you might need to orient them in that direction. It's not everybody who's going to be an Einstein, I'm sorry.
That's true.
And but there are tests that can be done to be able to determine your, should I say, intelligence level. Yes. And then you can be directed. I mean, if you have an IQ of 60, you will be functional, but you're not going to become a TV star like the two of you. I mean, you could, in the sense that you could be playing a role that is suitable for you and excel in that way. But what I mean is that you're not going to be an intellectual.
You can't be Dr. Hennett.
Oh yeah.
We haven't got that IQ
Anybody
level.
can be a doctor.
No, not us.
Media.
Okay,
No.
let's talk to Stan, and then I'll ask Doctor. Somebody just sent a message. She gets migraines frequently.
Yes,
Should she be worried? But let's talk to Stan. Good morning, Stan. Thanks for calling. What's your question for Dr. Hennett?
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Stan calling from Sunyani. I just want to know. In fact, doctor has explained a lot, and we are very grateful for that. We thank TV3 for the program. We wish to continue every blessed day. Thanks for your new day program. Thank you. But my question is a related question, not a direct question. Doctor has explained. We have an age limit that we use honey. Some people have explained from an ordinary point of view that honey can be used for the brain scan or to improve intelligence level. How true is this? And if it's true, what's the age limit that honey cannot improve on your intelligence level again? Thank you very much.
That's a very good question, because I remember when I was growing up, a lot of people would go and buy bottles of honey because apparently it did a lot to the brain.
Also fish oils, giving fish oils to kids is good for your brain as well.
First of all, honey. I have heard the rumor. I have not seen any scientific information that proves the point. Certainly, I don't think it's harmful. So, for what it's worth, people can give it. I cannot promise that if you give your children honey, they will turn out to be, smarter than they would have been. But fish oils, there is quite some data available as to their usefulness in certain brain conditions. In fact, some people say there is some data suggesting that it may be helpful in helping to delay or avert even some brain diseases like Alzheimer's. It's not certain, but there is some evidence.
I remember some stuff a few years ago.
And similarly, even for major psychiatric illnesses like schizophrenia, fish oils are supposed to be helpful. It's still a ground for more research, but there is some data suggesting that they may be useful. Again, they are not harmful, and they may be useful. So,
but if you say fish oil, it's not just eating tilapia; it's about
no,
drinking
there are certain precisely,
oil.
yes,
Exactly.
and these omega-3 fatty acids kind
Before
of.
Amma takes her next call,
Yes.
the migraine.
Oh yeah.
Migraine really is because of what it means is that you tend to have severe, repetitive, throbbing headaches, usually one-sided, although it may be, and it could affect like your eyes and
when your eye twitches.
Yes, sometimes even temporary paralysis of one arm and things like that. Some neurological signs. It may be brought on by different things. Some people are born with a tendency to it. Some people are allergic to certain things. It's because the blood vessels going to that side of the brain at one point, contract, and then later on they release certain chemicals which makes them dilate. So blood flow, difference in pressure of blood flow into the brain causes the throbbing. But there are medications that can be used to avert it. Usually those medicines must be taken as soon as the thing starts. If you're somebody who gets very frequent episodes, then it might be useful to be on preventive medication. In general, they are just incapacitating and maybe uncomfortable, but they are not harmful.
So no point going for an MRI or CT?
No, you may have it, because sometimes what we want to do is to exclude other serious causes. It's not all headaches that are migraine. You may assume it's migraine, but it may be something else. Yes.
Okay. We'll take our next caller now. Linda from Dancerman, good morning. The doctor's here. What's your question, please?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Please, I would like to ask, I'm 24 years old. I'm a chemo patient, but there are times that I get these severe burns in my head, and feel a little dizzy. I want to know, should I be alarmed? And I want to know symptoms of brain surgery, brain tumor and cancer or whatever it is.
Well, I'm sorry. I hope that you get better. Since you didn't specify what you are taking the chemotherapy for, all I can say is that burning sensation and some of the other discomforts that you described may be side effects of chemotherapy for any part of the body, because this medication that you're on, circulates around the whole body. And it doesn't necessarily mean that there is a tumor in your brain. Brain tumors present with different symptoms. Burning sensation generally is not because you have a brain tumor. Even anxiety can give you burning sensation. And, as I said, medication, side effects, and so on. What you need to do is to tell your doctor so that they reassure you that maybe what you are feeling is just a symptom of the treatment. If they really think that there's something happening in your head, certainly they will do a scan. There are some cancers that may not start in the brain but may spread to the brain also. So we do scans to be able to determine whether, for example, prostate cancer or breast cancer may, go to the brain and start, secondaries we call them. That means it's spread. So sometimes you do a scan of the brain, although the primary problem is some other place in the body.
Okay. We would like to talk to you more about brain injury, apart from just, getting your head knocked.
Car accidents.
Yes, But apart from that, if there is any other thing that could cause a brain injury, something you're not even...
falling, if you were dropped as a baby on your head.
Okay. Andrew, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Can I speak to Dr. please? I have a question.
Please.
Hello?
He's all for you.
Doctor, I want to know if there's a connection between the color of the head and the brain. Because in most cases, when, like our president, for instance, they report that because they process a lot of information, they think about a lot of things. Sooner than later, the color of their head changes.
Color of the head?
Yes, I want to be sure if it's the case.
Andrew, you need to, clarify the color of the head.
When, like, President Ford came to the office, the color was black.
The gray hair, the color of the hair.
Oh, wait, with age.
Yeah,
with age. For instance, President Mahama has really grayed faster than a 55-year-old man would probably have grayed.
So the question is whether gray
gray
does what?
Whether it has anything to do with your memory or the brain.
Okay.
Well,
when you think too much, do you gray? I think that's what...
I think stress can cause premature brain graying. If you're put into prison, some people, even in a space of 2 weeks, they can gray. Sure. But the point is that, in general, the degenerative brain diseases like Alzheimer's and so on tend to occur in older people. And we know that as people age, they're also more likely to gray. So that's the main connection. But the fact that you are doing hard work or thinking a lot does not by itself lead to injuries or problems with the brain. If anything at all, it stimulates the brain. One of the things that they say you should do is to do a lot of things like Sudoku. I don't know, but whatever, it can't hurt. It helps you to be able to be more organized and, achieve a higher level of thinking. So maybe it's helpful.
Okay. Now let's talk about the brain injury.
Yes. Well, one of the greatest uses of scans is for head injuries. If you have an accident or something hits your head and for whatever, you fall down or whatever, you may bleed into the brain. Parts of the brain tissue may be in very bad accidents. Sometimes, especially if you become unconscious after that, even if you recover, it may be that you are bleeding slowly into the brain. So one of the things that should be done is a scan to see whether there's bleeding anywhere. Because if there is, we may need to go in and drain it or stop the bleeding. Because it has First short-term and later long-term consequences. You may start having seizures later on. Okay. You may develop memory disturbance. You may develop weakness, like a stroke. All sorts of things can happen with brain injuries. And scans are very important for determining.
Okay, we have our last call on the line. Nanekuya from Awashi. Good morning. Dr. Ohene is here. What's your question?
Good morning. I have a 7-year-old brother, okay, and lately his teacher gave me complaints that when he teach something in class, okay, I think when the teacher just turned around and asked him, what did I say? All of a sudden, he just forgets everything. So I want to know if it's due to his playing constantly or brain issue.
Yeah, okay. Okay, unless we actually see him, we can't be certain. But usually this just means that he probably is not very attentive. Yes. Yeah. And the commonest cause of that is what we call ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Yes. You had a scan and then they pick it up by chance. Then they might be able to go and deal with it without any consequences. But unfortunately, if you don't know, luckily it's not too common. Of course, we can say that if it's not you who's involved.
Yes.
Okay, you were on that point before. We just wanted to find out if some people have been dropped when they were babies, as kids, and they always say, they were dropped as a child, so that's why you're not
and even
normal.
In addition to that, when you're born, they put this towel in hot water to get your head in a particular shape.
I wouldn't recommend that. Simply because it's not the heat, but more of trying to stop the natural development.
They say they're molding the head, right?
I don't know. Well, I guess certain groups of people like to be identified by the shape of their heads. I don't know if it's important. But if you're forcibly, because when you are born, some of the natural divisions of the head are not fully close. It takes a bit of time. But they do naturally. If they don't, there's a problem which can be dealt with, by the doctors. But if you've been dropped, it depends. Of course, you need to be checked. But I must say that children are very resilient.
True.
So people have fallen down even from heights and nothing happens to them. Of course, you need to be checked out. Because one of the dangers is that you may have bled into the brain. And if that happens, it needs to be dealt with. Sometimes when it's small, it just becomes reabsorbed and nothing happens. Unfortunately, if indeed you were dropped, but you recovered and continued life as normal, something happens to you at age 20, it's not very likely that it was a direct result.
Okay.
Except that I must add this, that recently, there is some evidence, very recently, suggesting that if you had brain injury, actual brain, not just head injury, if your brain matter was involved, like in an accident, then this may surprise you, but it seems that you are more likely to develop virtually all categories of major mental illness much later in life. Yes. Whether it's depression, other psychotic disorders, or mood disorders. This is data that came out of Scandinavia just about a month ago, looking at tens of thousands of people over the years who've had injuries. And what they realized is that if it was just a skull that was involved, it didn't affect the brain, then you are not affected. But if so, it's important that the integrity of the brain be maintained.
Let me just ask you, a sport which involves people getting hit on the head, for example, like boxing or rugby, if they're falling on
that's
their head.
One of the problems that come with these sports. If you are repeated injuries, Muhammad Ali, that's the kind of thing that we think is wrong with him. And those are some of the things that can be picked up by brain scans. Sometimes, even before the symptoms appear, you might get signs that this is what is going to happen. Okay. The head must be protected. That's why when I see people riding motorbikes
without
helmets, I don't know.
And Michael Schumacher, very sad case there.
Very, very sad. It tells you how useful scans are, because as soon as it happened, they took him to hospital. Then they know exactly what the problem is. They know that the pressure is rising. They needed to go in and do something to reduce the pressure. We can just hope. But it's difficult to tell what the outcome will be until it's over. Because people have been in coma for years and recovered and been quite well.
Normal, yeah.
And some people too, the loss of consciousness was only brief. And yet, depending on which part of the brain was involved, the effects may be long lasting. Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sami Ohene.
We have to have you back more
Ghana
often.
Medical School, of course. Doc is always available.
Yes. So as Nanaba says.
No, just for New Day.
Just for New Day. Okay.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here.
And have a wonderful 2014.
Yeah.
Same to
I
you.
hope this year your patients, wouldn't be coming often because they're fine.
We sincerely
They're
hope
healthy.
And we
So
hope
that you'll be out of a job so you can come here.
I'm very happy. That's our aim.
And
Yeah.
everybody will be healthy.
To work ourselves out of business.
That's good.
And I hope that New Day grows
It will.
from strength to strength.
Thank you.